Hello friends, myself Dr. Nidhi Darbari on My Education Treasure. Today in my present video I am going to tell you about the audio visual aids skill of micro teaching, its meaning, history and classification. According to an old Chinese proverb, if I hear, I forget. If I see, I remember. And if I do, I know. Effectiveness of teaching learning process does not depend only on teacher but also upon the different types of equipments available in the classroom. The different equipments, generally called audiovisual aids, makes teaching learning process more interesting, more stimulating, more reinforcing and more effective. According to the Indian Education Commission, the supply of teaching aids to every school is essential for the improvement of the quality of teaching. It should indeed bring about an educational revolution in the country. These are those instructional devices which are used in the classroom to encourage learning and thereby make it easier and interesting. Albert Duret rightly said that it is easier to believe what you see than what you hear, but if you both see and hear, then you can understand more readily and retain more lastingly. They are called so because they call upon both the auditory and visual senses of the students. The psychology of using audio-visual aids. Research done by Coben indicated that 1% of what is learned is from sense of taste. 1.5% of what is learned is from the sense of touch. 3.5% of what is learned is from sense of smell. 11% of what is learned is from sense of hearing, and 93% of what is learned is from sense of sight. According to Murgio, of what we learn, we retain. People generally remember 10% of they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they hear and see, 70% of what they say, and 90% of what they say as they do a thing. Meaning of instructional aids. Audiovisual aids, educational communication technology, audio visuals, learning resources, and instructional or education media, all these terms mean the same thing. Earlier, the term used was audio-visual aids in education, but with the advancement in the means of communication and of technology, educators coined new terms. Media refers to films, film strips, recording, etc. The use of newer terms like educational technology or instructional technology is primarily due to the dynamic expansion of programmed learning, computer assisted instructional, and educational TV. Locatis and Atkinson's define as the means for transmitting or delivering messages. Media includes such things as print, graphics, photography, audio communication, television, simulating games, and computer. Shimam Wilbur, in his book Big Studies in Educational Technology, categorized computer, VCR, TV as big media, and radio, film strips, graphics, audio cassettes, and various visuals as little media. According to Burton, audiovisual aids are those sensory objects or images which initiate, stimulate, and reinforce learning. Carter V. Good says that audiovisual aids are those which help in completing the triangular process of learning, that is, motivation, classification, and stimulation. Edgar Dale opines that audiovisual aids are those devices by the use of which communication of ideas between persons and groups in various teaching, learn and training institutions is helped. These are also termed as multi-sensory materials. According to Good's Dictionary of Education, audiovisual aids are anything by means of which learning process may be encouraged or carried through the sense of hearing or sense of sight. McNaughton and Roberts is of the opinion that audiovisual aids are supplementary devices by which the teacher, through the utilization of more than one sensory channel, keeps to clarify, establish, and correlate concepts, interpretations, and appreciations. The opinion of S.P. Ahluwalia is that audiovisual materials reinforce the spoken or the written word with concrete images and provide rich perceptual experiences which are the basis of learning. These materials make learning less non-verbalistic and reduce the boredom of mere verbalism. Kinder S. James said that audiovisual aids are any device which can be used to make the learning experience more concrete, more realistic, and more dynamic. K.P. Nirja is of the opinion that an audiovisual aid is an instructional device in which the message can be heard as well as seen. History of audiovisual aids. Audiovisual aids in one form or the other have been used in the teaching learning process from time immemorial. In earlier times, since life was very simple, simple aids were used, but with the development of science and technology and its use in all walks of life, including education, a variety of teaching aids have come into vogue. It is accepted that without the adequate and proper use of aid, teaching learning process cannot be inspirational and effective. In the 15th century, Desiderius Erasmus, a Dutch humanist, theologist, and writer, discouraged memorization as a technique of learning and advocated that children should learn through the aid of pictures. John Amos Comenius prepared a book known as Orbis Socialium Pictus, the world of sense object, which contained about 150 pictures on aspects of everyday life. The book is considered to be the first illustrated textbook used for childhood education, which gained wide publicity. Jean-Jacques Rousseau and other educators stressed the need of pictures and other plain materials. He condemned the use of word by teachers and stressed things. He pleaded that the teaching process must be directed to the students' natural curiosity. Pestalozzi put Rousseau's theory into action in his project method. He based instruction on sense perception. Nelson I. Green used the term visual education in 1926. Eric Ashby identified 4 revolutions in education: education from home to school, written word as tool of education, invention of printing press and use of books, and lastly, as the 4th, revolution in the use of electronic media, that is radio, television, tape recorder, and computer in education. Classification of audiovisual aids. Thus, audiovisual aids are those instructional devices which makes teaching learning process more interesting and effective. They use multisensory organs like hearing, seeing in order to make the process more vivid and impressionable. It reduces the rate of verbalism by providing content material in the form of concrete forms. Various classifications are given for audiovisual aids according to the type of projections by various authors. Classification of audio-visual aids. They have been classified into two types: audio aids, visual aids, and audio-visual aids. Audio aids are those which can be heard. For example, radio, tape recorder, Walkman, headphones. Visual aids are helpful to visualize the thing. For example, graphic aids, 3D aids, display boards, and print material. Audio-visual aids can be heard and seen simultaneously. For example, projected aids, TV, films. Classification of audio-visual aids. Number 2. They have been classified into two types: simple audiovisual aids and sophisticated audiovisual aids. Simple audiovisual aids includes graphic aids, display boards, 3D aids, print material. Sophisticated audio-visual aids include audio-visual aids. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to my video to motivate me, share it with others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. The third classification is technical approach, which has been classified into two types: audio aids and visual aids. Audio aids involving the sense of hearing are called audio aids. For example, radio, tape recorder, record player, etc. Visual aids, which use sense of vision, are called visual aids. For example, models, pictures, maps, bulletin boards, slides, epidioscope, overhead projector, etc. Fourth classification is the audiovisual aids have been classified into two types: projected and non-projected teaching aids. Projected aids, which help in their projections on the screen, are called the projected aids. For example, film strips, slides, film projector, overhead projector, epidioscope, etc. Non-projected aids, which do not help in their projection on the screen, are called non-projected teaching aids. For example, chalkboard, charts, actual objects, models, tape recorder, etc. Another classification of teaching aids are for convenience of study into the following categories: visual aids, audio-visual aids, activity aids. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.